Hi, I'm Meg. Welcome to the Inspiration Cafe. Bill?
Thanks, Meg, and thank you for joining us. And please join us as we speak to Kelly Ricker, Senior Vice President, Events and Education, CompTIA. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Kelly, let me just get things started by asking you to tell us a little bit about CompTIA, the nature of your member organization.
Sure. CompTIA is the IT Trade Association. We educate, certify, and advocate on behalf of the full industry, but we're a little bit different in that our member structure, the people who are eligible to be members, are specifically the indirect IT sales channel. So vendors and manufacturers, distributors, and the resellers and solution providers are the ones who are paying us dues and actively taking advantage of our benefits. Our primary revenue stream comes from non-members, IT professionals, regardless of their industry or location on the globe. They sit for a CompTIA certification exam, and that is what funds all of our member activities. Okay. So unlike many associations, events and membership dues are not where our revenue comes from, and we actually made a decision several years ago to make our events entirely free to members. So we don't sell sponsorships.
Well, that's very different.
Yeah, and our registration is free to members.
Wow.
So it begs the question from the planners who may be watching, how do you create value, perception of value when there's no cost?
Well, the value drivers are still the same, I think, for the event. It's the connections and the content that we provide.
And connections and content in the meeting themselves.
Right, in the events. I'm speaking specifically
and
to
how many events do you sponsor a year?
We do a number of meetings. We have two primary member events, an annual meeting for our key volunteers, as well as an event called ChannelCon, which is for the whole IT channel space.
So let's talk a little bit about the content and the connections, because it is all, as you said, it's all about that at these meetings. So how do you create the connections? We'll start there.
Okay. Well, I think first of all, as an event producer, it's our job to make it easy. And some of the best budget dollars I spend are on simple things like lounge furniture and all-day beverage stations. So I don't want to lose an attendee to the hotel lobby bar or the coffee shop. I want to create the environment that's conducive to building connections and more connections.
So
keep them in our space.
That's interesting, because normally people say, oh, lobby, comfortable chairs,
right,
beverage stations, that's where we can cut. Why do you think it's important to have those?
Well, I want them to stay in my space.
So
if they wander off, they're going to make fewer connections. Right. The critical mass, the buzz at my event is diminished. So I create a very nice place for them to hang out and stay the entire day.
That's
so
smart.
Even if they're not going to pop into sessions, they want to be in the space because that's where everybody else is.
Do you create opportunity for them to connect in a structured manner,
yes,
or is it all organic?
Well, the organic is key, but yes, we do get a little more formal and specific about it. So we've done things like speed networking, where it's a very orchestrated, timed event. And I recommend if you do that, folks do it early in the program, because those introverts, it gets them, it's a great icebreaker, and then they're more comfortable talking to people later in the event.
Right.
We do things, gamification is a buzzword that's been big in our industry for several years, and we've jumped on that bandwagon through our mobile app. So we give them points for connecting with one another, but more specifically, we give them points for visiting exhibit booths. So even though we don't sell sponsorships, we do give all of our members an 8x10 booth, and we need to drive traffic in that space. Right. So we give them points, and it's up to the exhibitor to decide, do they just have to stop by? Do they have to interact with me, answer a question, or meet a specific person? So they get to control that interaction. And then we have fun prizes, so there's a leaderboard, and people get really excited about the competition aspect of it too.
So you mentioned that you are working with a lot of mobile apps gamification. Mm-hmm. What other technology trends are you working with to help to create better content, to help create better connections?
Right. We've used an event-based social networking tool for several years. And these are not new. They started really on the personalized planner, and that's a great aspect of the tool. But where we've really embraced it is in the attendee connections that can happen in advance of the conference. Our privacy rules are pretty strict, so we can't release any contact information. This is a safe environment in which an exhibitor or even a reseller, they can search the list by tags and find who they want to meet. They'll see that Meg Fazie's on the list, and they can reach out to you through that platform to set an appointment in advance. And then it works through our mobile app as well. So it's working on site, and then it keeps their contact files so that when Meg says, yes, we've met, yes, I released my contact information, they can then download that. So it keeps their own personalized contacts. It's not just personalized planner, it's now personalized contacts. And that's been huge for us.
What are the 2 or 3 things that you're facing now that you didn't face 5 years ago in planning?
Always a good question.
Yeah, well, I think, how to incorporate technology into the event in a meaningful way. Social media and hashtags around events is very popular, but I have yet to see how it's measurable, the impact that it has on the event. So I'm still kind of waiting to see who's going to come up with that. ROI is so cliche anymore, but that opportunity to measure how effective that social media interaction is. As I mentioned, the user-generated content is something that we didn't really deal with in the past. We were certainly always approached by people who had a session, but it was prepackaged, and it's one that they've done a million times, kind of the PowerPoint deck that they tromp around the country with. So that's been a really exciting change, being able to embrace user stuff coming from your attendee base. And I know as an attendee at events, what I get most out of events is what I learned from my peers. And so this is a more formal way to showcase that peer-to-peer sharing.
Yeah, I know we've heard from others that it's so hard sometimes to wean management and even some members off printed materials, that they're just getting used to.
Yeah, fortunately in our space, they're all tied to their devices. So yeah, we don't have that challenge.
For me, just one other question. I'm interested because you have exhibitors, and we haven't heard much about the exhibitors' point of view from others we've spoken to. So what's on their minds? What are exhibitors concerned about?
Connections. That quality gamification leads piece I talked about, that was so well received by them because it drove traffic. And then it was up to them to determine the quality of that lead. It's all a numbers game. Meg, you've been in sales for years. It's all about making a number of connections so that you can whittle down and find that key partner. And our vendors are looking to grow their partner community, the people who resell their technology. And the indirect sales channel is a vast, vast space, and a lot of these manufacturers only have time to focus on the top 10% of their partner community. So what CompTIA is able to do is help them have a touch point to the masses, as well as provide educational tools to help their partners be better at what they do, sell more of that manufacturer's product. So it's about partner enablement, and CompTIA is an organization that helps the exhibiting community do that. And then the ChannelCon event is where they're able to have a face for those masses.
Terrific.
Great.
Kelly, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Meg
for having me.
and I have been speaking to Kelly Ricker, who's Vice President of Events and Education, CompTIA. Thank you for joining us. And Kelly, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.